I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker in this next segment. Not only are they each bold climate leaders with cities, working with cities, but they are former colleagues and alumni of the Garcetti administration. Let me introduce Julie Ciardullo, who is a leader with C40 working with on global climate action and city action. So please welcome Julie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Matt. It's an honor to be here today and with so many leaders who care deeply about the future of Los Angeles. I spent many years in the mayor's office here in LA under Mayor Eric Garcetti and then Mayor Karen Bass. And now I have the privilege of working for an organization called C40 Cities. It's a network of almost 100 big city mayors and cities representing 920 million people and roughly a quarter of the global economy. But what truly defines C40 is not its scale, it's the role that cities play in driving sustainability forward. Cities are where ambition becomes action. This is because mayors and civic leaders are on the front lines of the climate crisis. By necessity, they're the first responders, as we saw during the fires, heat waves, floods, and the public health consequences of polluted air. I want to share some statistics that C40 released just last month. 73% of C40 cities have already peaked their emissions and have collectively created over 21 million good green jobs. And cities globally are cutting per capita emissions 5 times faster than the global average. One of the greatest strengths of C40 is that cities don't just act, they learn from one another. Mayors and their technical teams share what works, what doesn't work, and how to move faster. The innovations pioneered in one city rapidly become the blueprints for others. So I don't need to tell you about the leadership of LA in the sustainability space. But few examples of shared learning are more powerful than London's work on clean air. Under the leadership of Mayor Sadiq Khan, who now serves as a co-chair of C40, London has become a true world leader in this space. Through bold moves like the ultra-low emission zone and a sustained commitment to transportation decarbonization, London didn't just reduce pollution, it has recentered health, equity, and climate in how a city moves. And today, we're incredibly lucky to hear directly from someone who helped make that transformation real. Elliot Treharne is the Assistant Director for Connectivity, Air Quality, Transport, and Infrastructure at the Greater London Authority. He previously led London's air quality and green transport programs, helped shape the congestion, charging, and ultra-low emission zone strategies, and spent time right here in LA as a clean air advisor in Mayor Garcetti's office, where I had the privilege of working with him. Today, Elliot will share how London used the Olympic moment as a catalyst for lasting clean air action. So there's no better example of what's possible when cities lead, and as LA looks ahead to its own Olympic moment, there could not be a more timely conversation. So with that, please join me in welcoming my friend and former colleague, Elliot Treharne. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm sorry I'm dialing in from London. It would have been much more fun to be there in person in LA. Hopefully you can see some slides. There'll be a grand reveal where hopefully you can see me at the end after I give this very short presentation. But I thought it would be helpful just to have 1 or 2 slides just to kind of take you through the London story. I'm sure everyone knows where London is, but just in case, I just thought I'd recap. London is a city currently of around 9 million people. We're projected to grow by 2041 to about 10.5 million people. And you can see that the Greater London area, which is what the mayor leads, is around 1,500 square kilometres. So it's a big city. As Julie was explaining, one of the things I really want to talk about today was about London's Olympic moment and how we really managed to catalyse that to drive the work we did on air quality and on climate and on sustainability more generally. But just for a bit of context, and I'm sure many of you know about this already, but obviously the Olympics themselves are a huge undertaking. In London, we had around 20,000 athletes. 6,000 officials, 26,000 journalists, and 10 million ticketed spectators, with events happening across the whole city. So not just in the centre, not just in the Olympic Park around Stratford, but all the way north in Wembley, all the way south at Wimbledon, and getting people around and doing that in the most sustainable way was really important. And one of the ways that we did that was actually by investing in our public transport capacity. So you can see in the little photo there, one of the investments that we made around the DLR extension. We created a new Javelin shuttle connecting the centre of the city with the Olympic Park. We invested extensively in transport capacity more generally, including the London Overground and upgrading the Jubilee Tube line, which is the main connection to the Olympic Park. And there was also a lot of work that we did in the road network as well to make sure that that was as efficient as possible when we were moving as many people around the city as we needed to do during the Olympics. Travel demand management was a key part of our approach. You can see two of the examples of the messaging that we put out on the right-hand side. These adverts were all over the place. We were providing advice to Londoners about when and how they travelled, and people were very keen to make sure the Olympics were a success. And so we were very effective in getting people to change the way that they travel. And that meant that we could manage the actual demand that we saw when we had all those extra people coming to the city. The other key thing that I think is worth highlighting, where I spent the Olympic Games, was in the what's called the TCC, the Travel Control Centre, which you can see on the left-hand side. And this was the first time that we really stood up the control centre. And what we learned, we've actually applied on an ongoing basis to a lot of the other major events that we have in the city. So, for example, the Queen's funeral or the coronation of the King, those kind of set-piece occasions. We really learned that having all the key people in one space, whether that was the transport operators or whether that was the police or other partners, was absolutely critical in being able to respond really quickly. Shortly, about a year in the run-up to the Olympics, obviously many of you will be aware that the International Olympic Committee do regular assessments of the preparedness of the city, the host city for the Games. And about a year out, we had a bit of a black mark because of the quality of the air of the city. And the IOC insisted that we take more action to continue to improve air quality. And we turned this into a really positive moment. So we identified action that we could take really quickly. Our bus fleet at the time was responsible for about a third of all emissions. And so we really focused on the 9,000 buses, which were very individually polluting, to see how we could clean those up. And we had a threefold strategy. We brought in new shiny buses. We also introduced hybrid buses for the first time and targeted those in some of our key routes to actually cut carbon emissions as well. And we also retrofitted older buses. So where we had to keep older buses because we couldn't replace them in time, some of the retrofit technology that we used reduced PM emissions, particulate emissions, by about 90%. London had introduced a low emission zone in 2008, but in 2012, we tightened the standards for that. So heavy vehicles had to meet tighter standards. And again, that was a really effective way of ensuring that lorries, buses and coaches, remembering that these were a tool that you moved a lot of people around, entering the London area had to meet tighter standards. And we also used this as an opportunity to innovate. So we piloted using different biofuel blends. We also started the beginning of what became quite an ambitious electric vehicle program that we had initially for game operations, but then we have used that again in our own support fleets and making sure that London has the charging infrastructure that it needs to support its EV ambitions today. Talking about two of our signature schemes, I think these are particularly valuable to highlight. One was the congestion charge. We introduced that in 2003. That was in place in the very centre of the city, and that central area hosted, it's normally very, very congested, but it also hosted a number of different game-related activities. So having the congestion charge in place was a crucial tool that complemented the wider travel demand management work that we were doing. But as I said, the low emission zone was really something that we had used to start reducing emissions. And as I said, we started for heavy vehicles in 2008. We tightened those standards for heavy vehicles in 2012. And then what we did was we actually used this as an opportunity to introduce the ultra low emission zone when Sadiq Khan, as Julie said, became mayor and was incredibly focused on what we could do to improve air quality. And the ULEZ is a scheme which includes cars and vans and puts in place minimum emission standards. And if you do not meet those standards, you have to pay £12.50 a day to drive in the zone. So, for example, you can see there the central London areas where we started the ULEZ, and then we expanded and rolled that out to the inner London area, which is about a population of 4 million people, and then to outer London, which is a population of 9 million people. So it was a very powerful tool, and as a result of this, what we have seen is a reduction in London-wide NO2 levels of around 27%, and in central London by about half. In addition to the ULEZ, we've been investing in transport capacity. So the Elizabeth line has increased public transport capacity by about 10%. We have invested heavily in walking and cycling. We've also supported the electrification of vehicle fleets like our bus fleet. We now have the largest zero-emission bus fleet in Europe with over 2,600 zero-emission buses. And around 60% of our iconic black taxis are also zero-emission. And these are heavily used, very visible fleets, which have helped persuade other people. If these vehicles can switch to zero-emission, then your own personal vehicle can switch as well. Just to finish, I just wanted to kind of show the transformation that we've seen in London. So in 2013, you can see just how bad the air quality was. This was even after some of the work that we've been doing in the run-up to the Olympic Games. And then you can see why this became such a political issue and such a priority for the current mayor to tackle. And you can see over time, 2019, when we introduced the first phase of the ultra-low emission zone, and then today, you can see how air quality has improved across the city. Clearly, there is still much more work to be done, and electrification of the vehicle fleets, including buses, and more promoting of walking and cycling, and increasing public transport capacity are all part of the plan that we have to continue building on the legacy of the Olympics in London, which really highlighted the importance of tackling air quality and promoting sustainability. Thank you very much.